Welcome to Pathways to Peace, creating peace inside and around us with emotional intelligence, or EQ. With your host, Matt Perlstein. In every episode, we explore the art, science, and magic of EQ for peace, power, and purpose in life. You can find this show at www.eqforpeace.org and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more. Now here's the host of Pathways to Peace, Matt Perlstein.
Hello. Welcome back. We had some challenges this time, so this is going to be interesting. So I wanted to introduce Caleb Hylton. How you doing, bud? Talk to us.
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Thanks for being here. You've done a lot of work on yourself. We're talking about emotional healing, emotional intelligence, emotional getting your act together. And because we don't learn about it much in school or at home or at work. So, and you've done a bunch of work, right? So that's a cool thing.
Very much. A lot.
All right. Yeah. So we want to dig into your background, what happened, what's going on, how you've overcome some stuff. We're trying to be motivational to people. This isn't really about me. It's not about you. It's about how to do this, why to do this. It's not fun. It's not always fun, but it's got to get done, I always say. So that's, we're trying to inspire other folks to do it. Mostly it's all free. Most of the stuff we do is kind of magical. I said it at the intro that it's, there's a magic to it. There really is. And it's, most of it's free is one of the magical things about it. So do you want to say a little bit about yourself and then we'll jump into the nitty gritty?
Sure.
Thanks.
So I happen to be one of the Reachers, part of the ACES Matters Reacher residency program. If for the viewers who tuned in last week, you're probably familiar with Cindy Stanford, who she is the founder of that movement. And, the whole aspect of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, my ACE score is actually an 8. And it was something that I was relatively unfamiliar with before I met her this year. It's funny how one thing happens after the next, but when you talk about doing the work, there were a lot of reactive behaviors, I think, that I had in place that I was not aware of that were causing further disruption in where I wanted to go in life. So thank you for having me.
8, dude. Sorry, but ouch.
Yeah.
Jeez. Well, let's get into it, and you guys see what an 8 is. If you know from last time what that means, but this time let's talk about some more about that because, wow. I'm say wow as in. I'm impressed that you got your act together, that you're doing as well as you are. You're very well spoken. You're very wonderful to be with and that kind of thing. You could end up being a nasty son of a gun after having an 8 score of 8. You could be bitter and resentful and all kinds of stuff. And I'm not seeing that. I don't know you very well, but your energy is wonderful and it feels loving and happy and up. And how the heck you did that is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. That's what I want to know some more about. So, do you want to say, actually, before we get started, talk about that a little bit? How'd you do that? Did you used to be nasty and grumpy and that kind of thing? I mean, damn.
So if we're being completely honest, something that I appreciate that Cindy recognized, referenced, was the anger that she carried previously. And one of the things I'll say, just kind of a little aside from my background, when you talk about kind of just narrowly escaping being a statistic, I definitely just narrowly escaped that. Single parent household, fatherless home. My mom moved in with her parents, so it kind of took a village to raise a child. And growing up, you just you don't understand everything, but stuff happens. And I would say maybe within the last 2 years, being able to pause and take time to reflect and process. And last year, actually in August, my grandmother passed away due to COVID. And that, I think, kind of opened up, I like how Cindy, I'm used to her term, opened up Pandora's box. So there was a lot of deep-rooted anger and resentment that I had that I wasn't even aware that I was carrying, but I was projecting that onto the people closest to me.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of being aware. Like, first you have to be aware. If you can gain awareness, now you can address it. So at that point, it's a matter of understanding that, yes, I am angry, but anger is a feeling that I'm feeling. I am not anger.
Yes.
Yes, I may have resentment, but it's a matter of being able to address that situation if you can with those individuals. Sometimes people pass away or whatever happens and you can't do anything. But I've been able to find peace with those people through journaling and kind of what that conversation might have looked like, what I might have wanted to say. And then faith. I am a faith-based individual. I believe in God. So my spirituality is something that's very empowering to me when it comes down to being able to maintain this finding my peace. I'm in the process of finding my peace. I actually
Man, we are right on the same wavelength here. That's great. That's great. Finding peace too. The point of this, our nonprofit's called EQ for Peace, because we are trying to find peace. Exactly my point. So, wow. So this slide that's up, you guys that can see it, if you can't see it, it is about some of the usual, I should say, the usual experiences with people that have a lot of ACEs end up being alcoholics. They end up being on antidepressants. They end up being in domestic violence situations. They definitely end up being smokers, et cetera, et cetera. And it is that's the normal. They've found direct connections, and why we're talking about the ACEs is that they have realized that they are boom. The more ACEs you have, the more crap you're going to have. The more ACEs you have, the more issues you're going to have. Period. And look at these graphs. You can see the graphs. They're directly going up. All of them. Exactly. So the more you have, the more likely you're going to have problems. The more likely you're going to have problems. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you were abused and neglected as a kid, how are you supposed to handle stuff as an adult, right?
Correct. And I definitely would say a lot of, if you notice, like the spread, we talk about alcoholism, antidepressant prescriptions, smoking. All of those are coping mechanisms. If you think about it, because we don't know how to address essentially the traumas that we were, like she mentioned, like what was dealt to us as kids, we didn't necessarily know how to address it. As you get older, because you are in that state of, you're just navigating through life, well, almost meandering through life, but you're not actually living.
Yeah.
Now in order to kind of cope with that experience, you drift towards substances, addictions, anything that will essentially take you out of the state of non-peace, that misery that you're in.
Yep. And that's because we don't have any emotional training. What do you expect? I mean, that's kind of like, right? It makes sense. It makes perfect sense. If we don't know how to deal with this stuff, and we got all this stuff in our body going on in our heart and our mind and our spirit and our soul, all this stuff that's going on that's negative, that it told us how bad we were and how we didn't fit in and we weren't wanted, or whatever you decided as a result of all of the pain that happened to you. What are we supposed to do with all that stuff? What are we supposed to do? Right. And
Correct.
That's why we're here jumping up and down about it. And a number of us are trying now to get other folks to do it. Caleb mentioned the Reacher program. Do you want to talk just a minute about that? Because I thought it was pretty cool. Reacher means that you're reaching out to other people. You deal with your stuff so that you can help other people. Is that accurate?
That is correct. The Reacher program is when Cindy said on the previous session that she got mad and she wanted to kind of see what she could do to bring awareness to this. The child that came out of that, is the Reacher Project, where essentially she's gathered a group of us. I believe there's 17 of us now across 6 different states. And effectively, we are going through, like Matt mentioned, education. We're not taught about this stuff. So she's bringing us right back to the basics and kind of saying that, hey, it's okay, that what happened to you happened, but now that you have the ability to know better, let's do better. And it's not only that, but being able to share your story, meet people where they are, and then help them also start to move forward through this, because connection is cure. Ultimately, it's that, to be connected with someone else and realize that, oh, well, it's not just me going through this. Oh, actually, it's kind of common. Oh my gosh, it's actually really common.
Really common.
Is powerful.
Is what? Power?
Powerful. It's extremely
powerful.
Yes.
Powerful. Definitely powerful. Yeah, a couple things about that is that it is it. Sorry, trying to shut off my phone. Hush. Jeez, sorry. It's a commercial anyway. So yeah, the people that are one of the most healing things is to help other people. It's not just about you. One of the most healing things is connection, like you said, being able to talk to other people and connect with other people. And that, one of the things I'm realizing about that lately is that the connection thing is super critical to us as human beings. We are social beasts and we want to connect really bad. We need to connect, actually. And that is our responsibility. Our responsibility. Chances are they're not going to come and connect with us. We got to go connect with them, which is riskier, and especially if we've been rejected and abandoned and such in our childhood. So it's harder. But it is our responsibility. It's on us. It's our problem. Just like emotional intelligence is our problem. The whole responsibility thing, that we create our thoughts, we create our feelings, we create our decisions, we create our actions. We do that. We do that. I do that. That is emotional responsibility to me. And what I usually say is that is the tipping point, in my opinion, between whether you're going to do well or you're not going to do well, is whether you can take that leap, if you will, to go, nope, I do this. I'm doing this to myself. They didn't do it to me. Nobody ever actually makes us mad. Nobody hurts our feelings. They do what they do. We then take it that way and we twist it and we do what we do with it, and then we get our feelings hurt and then we get angry, right? So there's a thing in between there which is up to us. And to me, that really is actually the best news I've ever gotten in my life. The best news. It sounds like it's not, but it is. But it is. It sounds like it's harder, and it is. It is harder, but it is the only way that I can take control of my own life. Is the only way I can take control of my own life, is to take responsibility for my thoughts and feelings that I created. They didn't do it to me. I did that. No matter what happens outside of me, I get to choose what happens inside of me. It sounds like you're buying that, right, Caleb?
So yes and no.
Definitely,
there's a part that I buy, and the reason why is because if you're familiar with Man's Search for Meaning, that book by Viktor Frankl, definitely, it is you, you have the power within you to create your own peace. No matter what happens outside of you, that power exists within you. But I would like to take an opportunity to, looking at this slide and the impact of childhood trauma, I think something that isn't actually mentioned on here, but it is the thoughts of depression. As it starts to go towards the extreme, it can lead to suicidal tendencies. And if there is anybody that's watching this and they feel perhaps unseen or unheard, or even like in a state of victimization, just know that what happened to you in your childhood, it wasn't right. It wasn't fair. That was not about you. Right. A lot of times, unfortunately, whether for good or bad, people are doing the best they can with what they have, the tool set that they have. A lot of times, this month, actually, it's Intergeneration Month. So, when you think about what's passed down from your great grands to your grands to your parents to you, if that perhaps emotional intelligence was not taught or passed down properly. The limited tool set that your parents had, that's what they used, or whoever was the person that perhaps caused that adverse childhood experience for you. But the part where I would definitely agree with Matt is there comes a point where, as an adult, you now have to take responsibility for your experience and understand that what happened to you in your childhood when you were under that person's care, that was not necessarily children. They literally don't have the ability to care for themselves yet. So that was not your fault. But now that you are moving into a society with which you are responsible for yourself, it is no longer on anybody else to do the work. That is something that we have to do for ourselves.
Beautiful. Thank you for clarifying that. That is true. And I totally believe that. As a child under 18 or whatever, as a child, when you're in other people's care and they're doing what they're doing, and to you, it is, wow, that it's not your fault. Yeah. So, but as an adult now as an adult, that's a whole different deal. Now it's your deal. So what I was trying to remember, Cindy said it beautifully. It is not your fault, but it is your problem now. I forget the exact words she used, but it was pretty cool. It's I'm not coming up with exact words, but basically it wasn't your fault, but it is now your problem. Now it is your problem. It's not their problem anymore. They're done. They did what they did. They're gone probably, and they may or may not care what's going on with you. Now it's up to you, though, right?
Correct.
So, for correcting me, or it's clarifying.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, and you mentioned depression. Depression also is sometimes a chemical thing. Sometimes it is stuff that's in your body and you need medication for that or whatever. And it's beautiful that we have that now. And while you're on the medication or while you're handling the physical stuff, if your doctor said to do something, do it. But while you're doing that, there's a bunch of work you can do on yourself and on your emotions that are that and on who you decided you are. We call them belief systems that you can adjust to. I call it spin it to win it. You can adjust them. If you decided you're bad or you're no good or you're not wanted and stuff, and this big negative generalization, you can adjust those to go, well, maybe that person thought I wasn't, but that doesn't mean I am. So you can spin stuff, right?
I love that. Yes. So true.
Spin it to win it. Right? Okay, cool. So here's the next slide, and that is about physical. Amazing. This is incredible. To me, this is one of the biggest things, partly because this is about connecting the number of ACEs, the number of problems that you had as a child. Like I'm going to go back to them again. Here they are right here. They are the directly related, again, the emotional abuse as a child or emotional neglect or whatever happened to you as a child with you physically, not just behaviorally, right? The one was behaviorally, which is your addictions and domestic violence and stuff. But think about that. That means that your body, if it didn't heal, if you got all this commotion going on in your body and you didn't heal it, you end up in bad shape, physically bad shape. And the reason that is super important, well, of course, obviously for you physically, it's important, but that's where the bucks are, is in the medical profession, in the healthcare profession. And so what is he called? The Surgeon General of the United States has gotten into this. The state at the state level, at the national level, federal level have gotten into it. And they're seeing the connection between us not dealing with our emotions as a child or our emotional stuff from our childhood and physical ailments, right?
Correct. Yeah. Something that comes to mind, and you've probably heard this before, but the best way to put it is this. If you look at, as a child, you were put in a situation where you were put in a state of distress. Your body does not understand how to regulate what's going on. So if you're put in a state of distress, and you're constantly put day in and day out in a state of distress, it moves your body from distress to dis-ease, disease. So, of course, you're going to move to a place where you're more likely. It's actually said that for a person like myself who has an ACE count of 8, I'm known possibly to live 10 to 20 years less than someone who had an ACE count of like 3 or less. And what's even crazier than that is the fact that I'm a higher risk of developing heart disease. You can see here, it's like one of the highest ones on this chart. You know, it's the body. I guess you could say that if we don't take the opportunity to identify, address, and of course, heal this distress that we're in, it further moves our body into a state of dysregulation where it's like you can't heal something that's constantly being messed up. It's like if you had a scab and you continue to peel it over and over again, it's not actually going to fully heal. So that's why it's really important to do the work. Yes, exactly. So the guy in the middle here is really the one who
It's you, buddy.
changed the intergeneration for the next generation. The fact that even, wow, this is a really big thing for me. If I may just kind of tangent a little bit.
Please.
But for all of the men on this call, it is okay for you to show emotion to your children. Tell them that you're proud of them. Tell them that you love them. Tell them whatever it is that you felt that you were not given, perhaps, or were not shown enough of. Even physical touch, like hug your boys, because there's a lot of what'll end up happening is if you do not teach your children essentially how to healthily, I guess, have that relationship with themselves. Well, now what happens is if I was not given it in the home, I'll seek that elsewhere. And I definitely was the kind of person who approval addiction, you know, validation, seeking the perhaps what I wanted to hear from the father that I didn't have. And it causes you to act out in certain ways. So I really love this image here in the sense of that it's okay for you as a man to be vulnerable with your son, with your children, and to show them that love and care that perhaps was not shown to you from your parents or your grandparents. Because, hey, the way I look at it is it's 2022 and it's up to you.
Oh, that's good. Man, yeah, this slide is huge for me too. I'm with you. The guy in the middle there, what we're showing, and we showed this last time, is grandpa bashing on dad. Dad's bashing on the kid who's now an adult, and he's going, wait a minute. I'm not doing this. I'm shielding my kids from what happened to me. And that's the toughest position. That's where we're in. That's where you are. If you're listening to this, chances are that's where you are right there. And that's where I am. That's where Caleb is. It is the toughest position of all of them. It's easy to do what our parents taught us or showed us or did to us. That's easy. Doing it different and doing it better, that's not so easy. Stopping it, making it real for us, healing it instead of us, and then passing on what's better is a whole big deal. It's a big deal.
Correct. That actually, a second thing that you just kind of brought up for me was when you say like what your parents did, you know, if anything, something else that I would, not that I have children, but for the parents out there, I would encourage you to listen to your children, talk to your kids. I very much kind of came from a household where, you know, corporal punishment was a thing. And sometimes before you get upset and you want to strike out, take a moment to pause and of course, identify why you feel that way. Because it could just be you're operating out of habit where it's like, well, I mean, hey, I was beaten, I'm okay. So I can beat my kid and it'll be okay. But if you actually take the opportunity to ask your children questions, listen to them, hear them, and understand perhaps why they are acting that way, it may not even be something that you need to beat your child over. You know, like it's sometimes parents get so caught up in their own frustrations that the filter between my daily frustrations and then the frustrations of being a parent sometimes overlap. So just remember that your child, they don't know. And they're looking to you for that example, for that model. So if you can take the opportunity to have those conversations with your kids, I can guarantee you, if they can understand, like something that's really crazy, Matt, for me, would you believe me if I told you that maybe it's been within just the last 5 years that I've really been able to identify other emotions? Like I had like either I was happy, I was mad, or I was hungry. It was like I only had a handful of things because all of these other emotions, they just kind of went towards anger. And you take the opportunity to communicate with your kids. Now they're understanding that, like, okay, I'm upset, but why am I upset? Or like, am I frustrated? Am I agitated? Am I at distress? Am I upset because this person who came into the room is making my body feel dysregulated and I don't know how to communicate to you that I don't feel safe in this room? Like, it's very important to get that context. So that way, when you're having those conversations with your kids, that now they feel like they can come to you about these things, especially as they get older. Because I think it's really sad when parents try their best, but ultimately they end up kind of pushing their kids away. And that relationship is something that I cherish with my mom. She really gave me the opportunity to have a voice. Not saying she didn't have her fair share of mistakes. I mean, being a parent, nobody's ever really prepared for it. But at least she gave me the room to talk with her about things. And that's something that I will always appreciate that she did for me.
Nice. And I appreciate that you're doing the work to make those changes. It hits home for me too, because I got to go see my daughter and her my granddaughters, her two daughters yesterday. They're 1 and 3 years old, and they're just unbelievably cute and wonderful. And I cringed to think of what it would have been like if mom hadn't done the work that she has done and is an amazingly wonderful, incredible mom now, because she grew up with, I've been doing it. My wife and I have been doing this work for 35 years now. And so she was brought up, she's pretty cool. She's pretty amazing, actually. She's their soccer coach now too, which is pretty cool, and dealing with all these little kids. But she just, the way she handles her daughters is beautiful. And I am like super proud, incredibly proud of that. Not like I did such a wonderful thing, but just to watch her and to know that we have broken the chain in some cases. It's happening, to watch the little kids. It's so great. And she just called before, and I get to go see them again tomorrow. She needs some help with something. Like, okay, yeah, okay, sure, yeah, please. So. Yep. I liked your, you mentioned about approval addiction. I think I might have that as well. So she approves of me. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's okay.
It's healthy in small doses.
What's that?
I say it's healthy in small doses.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. Good. Well, I like it in big doses too. All right. Let's talk about I do. Sorry. All right. So let's talk about this slide too, because this is, you mentioned this earlier, is the folks that have adverse childhood experiences more than likely they were disrupted in their neurodevelopment. They have social, emotional, and cognitive impairment. They adopt health risk behaviors, which is, risky behaviors and doing stuff that they're not supposed to be doing, and that's not healthy for them or other people. It then turns to disease and disabilities and social problems and early death. Boom, boom, boom. They show it as going uphill, but it's like it's downhill in a way. That's how it seems like. Is this fit for you? Okay.
Honestly, this is, because I think what's crazy about it is a lot of times when we say ACEs, people think that ACEs start once the child is here. But honestly, ACEs start at the point that the woman has the child, because the stress or anything that she goes through can be transferred to the child. It's like, you've known some children, they come out and they already have an addiction. Where did the addiction come from? It came from the parent. Or like, if that parent suffers from depression, it's possible that child may have a greater predisposition to be someone who has depression. So when we look at this at the point that starting at the bottom and then moving up, I thought it was interesting, the difficulty learning, engaging with the environment, hyperactivity, ADHD, depression, these are things that we throw them around as kind of buzzwords now, but where does this come from? Is that our normal state of being, or is that a point of, like you said, disrupted neurodevelopment? And then once you get into the further impairments, it's the fact that we can even tie in approval addiction. So because of, I have difficulty paying attention because perhaps of the ACEs that occurred to me, which means now I have difficulty learning. Now that gives me this social status essentially of I'm someone who has difficulty learning or difficulty returning information, or I'm just not good at math. These things that sometimes people will tell you things and they're actually projecting their own hurt on you. Oh, you can't sing, you're not good at art, you can't dance. And you buy those things and they become you. So of course, as you continue, now you're moving into a state of something that you maybe loved as a child, you don't even want to do anymore as an adult, which means we move to those adoptions of the health risk behaviors, because we're back to that coping part we're talking about. Most people, honestly, I think in our society, they're just trying to get through the day. They're living day to day. And at that point now, of course, if, smoking may lead to lung cancer. We Surgeon General says, right? We know that these things are not going to be good for us. Drinking leads to kidney failure and stuff like that. So, of course, it's very possible to see this play out. And I think it's sad to think about how many of us may possibly be higher on this pyramid than we ever want it to be, but we don't even know that, we are currently, we have not become aware that we can change it.
Right. Okay. Well, we need to start wrapping up. I mean, this is fantastic stuff. It's super important that I think that people know about this. The ACEs thing is fairly new, but it's they made the connection, like I said, between childhood issues and adulthood issues, whether they're behavioral or physical too. And so we really want to encourage everyone to deal with your stuff, figure out what's going on, assess first, awareness first. Like Caleb said, awareness is always first. Awareness is, you can't do anything until you're aware. So you can't do anything until you're aware of it. You can't fix it if you don't know it's broken. So definitely strongly agree with that. You wanted to talk just for a second about the DISC. This is one of the things, emotional intelligence gives us choices, and there are things we can do. There's lots of stuff we can do nowadays. Not too many people know about them, but there's lots of things we can do to heal, to find out about ourselves, and to figure out how to do it different, and to heal, and all that kind of good stuff. So this is one of them. I don't know that much about it. Talk to me for a minute about that, Caleb.
Most definitely. So DISC is one of the personality assessments that are quite popular out there. If anybody has seen any of E.T., the hip hop preacher, Eric Thomas, his flight assessment, that's kind of how I ended up coming into learning more about DISC. And one of the things that's very, I would say, important to understand is every single one of us, we have a very unique set of skills, gifts, and abilities. And in that regard, that means that if you take the opportunity to compare yourself to the next person, well, you're always going to be miserable because you're trying to fit yourself into a mold that wasn't built for you. And I definitely kind of went through that because looking at DISC, I'm somebody who, like on the D side, that would be someone who, let's say they're very direct. So they don't have a problem asking questions, go get it, they're going to get what they want. Somebody who's on the lower side, they're going to ask questions. They're going to be a lot like, we'll see what's going to happen and then we'll respond. Yeah. Somebody on the high I, that's going to be influence in the sense of like they're a very outgoing people person. They can go up to anybody and share their life story and they don't have an issue with it. And somebody with a lower I might be more reserved. I'm not going to open that up. Somebody with a high S might be like, it's very much making sure that everything is where it needs to be. And then somebody with a lower S might be, I'm open to spontaneous on the go. And C is going to be more about It's similar but different. If you see, the S kind of gears more towards that people and being on the reserve side. The C is more towards tasks and reserves. So you think more about like the overarching systems, making certain that everything that's in place is operating as it should. So notice that we're talking about 4 different dimensions here. And it's important to keep in mind that we can't be rigid when it comes down to personality, that people we're fluid. We exist on a spectrum. So looking at that whole piece, it's just another tool that you can use to learn more about yourself and ultimately realize that what your specialty and unique gifts are is what makes you amazing as an individual. And now you need to build a community, build that connection with other people who are strong in the areas that maybe you're not, so you can have an intrapersonal victory.
Well put. Intrapersonal victory, and that's beautiful. Nice. Yeah. So this is one of the choices. We talk about the 3 different or the 3 steps to emotional intelligence is awareness first, just like you said. Acceptance is second. It seems like it's not that big a deal, but it is. It's huge. And to accept that, that's how it is. And I am how I am. And this stuff is inside of me, and this is how I turned out, and this is going well, this is not going well. That's all acceptance. Emotional responsibility is acceptance, etc. And then third is action. Take some action, do something different, or stop doing what you were doing that was not cool. No action is a good action sometimes, especially with high emotions. Awareness, acceptance, action. So what we're talking about now, and some of the other calls to action that we have in a minute, are actions. They are stuff we can do and should do, maybe need to do, but they're actions. So we're wanting to encourage you to take some action. This is a cool one. This is from Cindy's website from ACEs Matter. It says, it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Frederick Douglass said, it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Now, but the problem is that who we're talking to is probably the broken men, and that ain't easy. So that, like we said, that's the hard road to go, but it is so important. It's so important for others, for yourself and others both. This same statistic I like is from CDC, Center for Disease Control, said about 125 million American adults have at least one ACE. And in 52 million, like 25% of us have 3 or more. That's huge, you guys. That is huge. Gosh. Go ahead, Caleb.
No, I was just like, that's huge, because I think what's crazy about that is, if you think about it, most of us as adults are one point of contact away from somebody who has experienced an ACE. So that it's not personal to you, that means you personally know someone who has been impacted by ACEs.
Yep. Yeah, and you're talking about one. We're talking about people that have many of them, and we wonder why we're a mess. We wonder why people are so grumpy. We wonder why people are so rude nowadays. Man, people are rude. They're getting ruder too, it seems like, doesn't it? I don't know. And I feel like it is survival. Like you said earlier, we're just trying to get through the day. Somebody was talking to me about that earlier, and I'm like, you know what? Most people don't care about, we were talking about other people. How come they're not helping other people and go volunteering and that kind of thing? That's down too, by the way. People are into survival, and you get into, I don't have time for that. I don't know about what's going on for you. I may or may not care about what's going on for you, because I'm just being with me. I'm just trying to do what I can do to get through the day, like you said, man. So let's talk about some of these calls to action. Go ahead, Caleb.
Most definitely. So, shameless plug, I love the ACEs Matters cause. Highly encourage you, check out the website, acesmatters.org. There you'd be able to be directed to the Facebook community. You definitely want to plug in. I'll be there, Cindy will be there. We're all there. We're all having communication, doing the work. Definitely, if you have not already yet, take the ACE test. It's going to be right there on the website, acesmatters.org. Scroll down, you'll see where it'll reference for you to be able to take the test.
Excuse me. It's only 10 questions, and they're yes or no questions. It take you 2 minutes to do the whole test, but you'll be like, Right? Really? It could be a life changer for you. It's 10 yes or no questions. That's it. So go ahead. Sorry.
No, you are completely correct. And I think that at the point that you've taken the test, like Cindy said, it's just information. Like, you still, now that you're aware, we have to go ahead and address and take those action steps. If you're somebody who wants to actually get more involved in the sense of maybe you want us
Please.
to either have more in-person or virtual workshops, there's the Get on the List. I wanted to reference that. It's a good opportunity for you to connect with the ACES Matters organization and kind of share your information with us so we can connect with you, and connection is cure. Also, it says take the DISC test. One of our reachers, Ray, unfortunately, he was not able to be here on this call, but if you connect with him, you scroll further down on the acesmatters.org website, you'll see that it'll talk about the Reacher residency, like more information there. You'll find all of our profiles there. My profile is there. Ray's profile is there. Connect with him. He'll be able to get you connected to the DISC test. And then if you want to connect more with me, you can, my website is right there, exponentialczn.com. And for myself, I would say just kind of action steps that have drastically helped me from, a year ago until now. Is journaling, meditation. I love that Cindy said literally just 10 minutes a day can change everything. And she said, if you teach all the children of this generation how to meditate I think it was like, if you teach everybody how to meditate in one generation, there won't be any more violence. So that's beyond powerful. And then for myself, for if there's any men who are currently right now trying to go through the rite of passage of what does it mean to be a man, I would definitely encourage you to check out No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. That book was an eye-opener for me in the sense of a lot of we talk about these things that are subconscious programs that are running. And the thing is, if it's running, but you're not aware of it, then you're not in control of you. Yeah. So you first need to get that awareness. And at that point, now you can start to control what's going to come from you. Mm-hmm. So I think the very last thing that I'd like to say is that right now, I like to say that I'm working on letting go of my ego. And I've heard ego stands for edging God out, and embracing myself. And I coined that as spiritually embracing living free. So I definitely encourage everybody to embrace yourself, because no matter what, you are the only person who will ever be able to have the experience of being you. So let's start by loving you, because you're one of a kind.
Ah, nice. Whoa, beautiful. Well done. Nicely put. Awesome. This was great. Caleb, you're the man.
Thank you.
You have a really neat way of explaining things nice and simply, so people go, "Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, you're right." So, and you're not trying to be right; you're trying to share this information so people can be better, right?
Yeah, this is my personal experience. The only thing I can do is tell you what worked for me. Yeah. If it works for you, awesome. If it doesn't, well, let's talk about what we can do to find something that may.
There you go. Because we have choices. That's a wonderful thing. I don't know. It's like I kind of realized that the other day, that it hit me that the point of emotional intelligence isn't to tell you how to do it. It's to give you more choices. It's to give you choices so you can decide what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And that gives you, like you said, power and control over your own life. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Some people complain, I got too many choices, I don't know what to decide. That's a good problem. That's a good problem. There's bad problems and good problems. Having not enough choices, that's a bad problem. Having too many choices, that's a good problem. So we're trying to give you choices that you may not have been aware of before, and so you can do you and do a better you, and do a more loving, more happy, more peaceful, more kind you that we're trying to create in the world. This isn't just about inner peace. It starts with inner peace. It all starts with inner peace. But we're trying to do interpersonal peace. Me and Caleb are getting along right now, as far as I know. And correct me if I'm wrong. And we're doing some social peace where we can get along in groups and teams and communities and all that, and families. Ooh, imagine your whole family getting along. How cool is that? Yeah,
that would be amazing. I'd love to see that.
Yep, me too. So I guess we need to end. We could go on and on and on. We have so much to talk about and so much to say. We'll be back next Friday and talk about some more in depth of how and some more choices that you have. And Caleb, thank you so much. Thank you. Great stuff.
Thank you so much for having me.
And especially your attitude. I mean, and you're with people that have similar attitude, which is, I got to get my act together so that I can help, because we've actually found that me helping you is good. We both win, right? Everybody wins if we do that. Everybody wins. We don't have to get stuck in our own pain and our own stuff. If we can have, in 6 seconds, calls it a noble goal. If we can have something bigger than us that we can get involved with and make a difference, it's for me. I win, you win, everybody wins. It's beautiful stuff. So
yes.
Right on. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You've been listening to Pathways to Peace, creating peace inside and around us with emotional intelligence, EQ, with your host, Matt Perlstein. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, and sharing this show with others. You can catch prior episodes at www.eqforpeace.org and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more.